what's better, the fine art world or Dungeons and Dragons?
How kind do you want me to be?
Brutal.
I would say the fine art world has a whole host of problems when it comes to its barrier for entry and gatekeeping.
Let's talk about gatekeeping for a second, because I would think that as a DM player, gatekeeper sounds pretty cool.
Gatekeeper.
I'm the gatekeeper.
Play the troll toll. Yeah.
You are not allowed to show your work in my gallery. Get out.
It's true, though. Oh my
Lightning
God.
bolt.
Your crew walks into a dirty inn. There are creatures in every corner looking at you. As you grab for your crotches and head over to the bar, you overhear a strange conversation about something new, something special. Something called Lucky Time Explosion.
Wow! Welcome back to Lucky Time Explosion, everybody. Your source for art news, art chatter, general nonsense, and interviews with interesting creative people. Today, I've brought on a special friend, TJ Bavalis. What's up, TJ?
Hey!
Wow! Yeah! We got a live studio audience today.
There's like 70 people
awesome.
in here.
I know, it's wild, man. You brought the whole crew. You run deep.
I mean, you know.
He's a wizard. He's a wizard. They run deep.
Yeah, we gotta
They
get
got big staffs.
Well, you always say never split the party. That's like really important. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we knew we were going into an encounter, so we had to stay together.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's good. That's good. I met you originally at Con Artist when we were doing some painting. And, yeah, you were doing some fine art thing. We did some cool. I saw a couple cool events with you at Ludlow House.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And then we
did
started.
the Soho House. Well, it was Ludlow House at that time because they had changed. Because
Well, they're under the umbrella of Soho House.
Because there was multiples of them.
They have 12 all over the world.
They have 12 now?
Yeah, they have them in Turkey. They've got them everywhere.
My goodness.
But then we started. I started going over for D&D.
Yeah.
Thus the Wizard
Yes,
hat. Yeah.
yes,
So
yeah.
I have my first question for you is what's better, the fine art world or Dungeons and Dragons?
How kind do you want me to be?
Brutal.
I would say the fine art world has a whole host of problems when it comes to its barrier for entry and gatekeeping, whereas I feel like the TTRPG world, tabletop role-playing game, has a lot less gatekeeping going on there, and I feel like it's definitely been made to be far more accessible for a lot more people. I mean, let's face it, the art world can be very who you know, where you are. And,
yeah, it really is.
And then whereas even if it's not D&D, it could be literally any other TTRPG. It's just you gather a bunch of people around the table, and you don't need any capital to buy a ticket. You don't need a bunch of art supplies. You
I don't know,
dice
man.
and a piece
I
of paper.
spend a lot of money on dice.
I mean, well, that's the dice goblin in you. That's the thing.
And my custom-made steel and bronze mini from Hero Forge. That also costs a little bit.
Can you hyper-focus on it like that? Yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing. When you have an intrinsic interest in wanting to do that, of course you're gonna spend money on it. But I don't want to say sometimes it feels work, but especially in the creative arts that become more into the pop culture and capitalist, as far as especially with art and how the collectors and all this other stuff and acting and everything is they always say you got to put the work in. You got to put the work in.
You do. You got to put the work in.
And
it's a long game.
You do, and it is a long game, but it can also be very intimidating because there's so many people out there that are doing these crazy pieces and making hundreds of thousands of dollars off of them.
Right.
And you could just sit at your table and be like, hey, look, I spent the last 72 hours really, really hard working on this thing for you if you're the game master.
Yeah.
And your friends are like, okay, cool, we're going to focus and we're going to give you attention because they're already somewhat invested in you and they already have your trust, and that's what that is.
As a dungeon master.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Game master, dungeon master, depends on what game you're playing.
Is there a difference between a game master and a dungeon master?
Game master is I believe, is just more a generic term. It's also kind of the way the British people often say.
British? The Brits?
Yeah,
the
Brits.
Game master.
It's just far more
the Game master.
It's like the aluminium to our aluminum.
Oh, man. That's why we fought the war, right?
No.
No, okay.
Okay, so is it adamantium or adamantanium?
Adamantium.
Adamantium.
It is adamantium.
It's the third, and I was wrong.
But wait a minute.
Son of a bitch.
Let's talk about gatekeeping for a second, because I would think that as a DM player, gatekeeper sounds pretty cool.
Gatekeeper.
I'm the gatekeeper.
Play the troll toll. Yeah.
You are not allowed to show your work in my gallery. Get out.
It's true, though. Oh my
Lightning
God.
bolt.
You can't
Lightning bolt.
I got Fireball. So like you can like there are so many pickup games where you can just walk in to a game at like a game store or something and be like, hey, I'd like to do this. Can you commit to this schedule? And I said, yes. You can show up. I want to do this character. Okay, cool. This is what the world is.
So for the audience listening at home, you have a televised, a broadcasted, a YouTubed thing. It's called
we
Dice of Ages.
Yeah. So Dice of Ages.
What is it called again?
Dice of Ages.
Dice of Ages.
Dice of the Ages.
Dice of the Ages.
It's a pretty. I mean, I can't believe that wasn't taken. Good job on that.
I mean, we have no idea how long we workshopped that name. So
how's that been going?
It's been going good. I mean, like most of it we do it for ourselves, and like actually,
that's just like art, though.
Sean here, one of our crew that came here today, that convinced me, goes like, dude, what you're making is awesome. I love like the GM stuff, the world that you're building. This is IP. This is intellectual property. You should like start streaming it or something like that. And I said, okay. And it was a lot of work to like be doing that stuff. Like but now we're on like Facebook, Twitch, and everything. We did the set, we did the 4K
How
cameras,
often do you
the
play?
podcast microphones,
and record.
Well, so we actually have 3 campaigns set in the homebrew world that I built from scratch.
World building, I love it.
And so like all the parties actually play in the same world, but like they're different people. They're different groups of people that play at different times.
Right.
And so sometimes the actions of one campaign and one group and one party actually affects through ripples of the world some of the other goings.
Is
on
it like
with the other
Sliders? You're like going in and out of different adventures?
Oh, you mean
at the same time, like
different
the show,
dimensions,
like
different
Quantum
universes.
Leap?
That was a great show. You know, I
Same
feel like
thing.
I should have. I mean, that's an older show.
Kind of.
I'm older, but like I feel like I missed out on Quantum Leap, and it's a show that I never jumped back to. But I think we all should maybe touch on Scott Bakula.
Scott Bakula is a legend.
He is a legend.
Scott Bakulum, and so the world itself is supposed to be split up among it. Like we try to play, like each group tries to play every other week, but stuff happens.
It's a lot like art too. Like you're pouring your heart and soul into this production and making this amazing world building, and it's like you throw it out there, and then some people are like, oh, cool. Click. Like I mean, we're on YouTube too, and like we're like fucking hyped if we get like 8 minutes of watch time. So like grabbing people's attention is a hard thing to do.
It is.
And do you feel like there's any kind of like? I feel like there's a lot of connections between creative role playing games and making art.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's actually one thing I wanted to touch on too, is because like there's definitely. Most of it we have to do for us. It has to be for us.
Yeah, that's the big one, right?
And because I mean, they keep coming back. The players keep coming back. They want to be there. They're emotionally invested in their characters. They're emotionally invested in the world, and that took a while to get there. You often start with some stuff where you have to give them some sort of extrinsic value in order to want to be involved and like move throughout the world and interact with the lore and interact with like NPCs, non-player characters, and all that other thing. And once they do that, and you got them on a little bit of a line, then they kind of take the momentum and they start driving the train forward themselves. Especially when you grab onto. That's one of the big things about GM is like grabbing onto what is the character that this player is playing, what actually motivates them, and you grab onto that and you're like, okay, I'm going to like give you just kind of play on your backstory a little bit and give you something to be emotionally invested in, to want to motivate you to move forward. And when it starts to get to that momentum, DM gets to step back. GM gets to step back, and the DM gets to step back and just be a referee.
Would you say
everybody
else
drives the story?
Would you say a DM is more analogous to like a gallerist or an art agent?
I would say there's definitely
the player's the artist. What's the DM?
I think it's more of like a manager curator, but nicer.
Yeah. But nicer.
But nicer.
Have you
Only
ever,
because like you should already be friends with these people.
as a
You don't have to
DM,
be.
have you ever created like a character like you specifically made really obnoxious, annoying to just like completely grind on everyone else during the whole adventure?
Okay, so this is a really good question. Actually, I do want to answer it in depth a little bit, because this is, yes, you absolutely can make joke characters and you absolutely can do that, but you also have to manage expectations and find out what the setting is.
Do you have a favorite one that you've created that you sometimes almost feel like you need to bring back?
Oh yeah, I can't remember his name.
Just to fuck with everybody else?
Yeah, so hold on, let me finish the first question and I'll get to the thing. But yes, you do that. But you also have like manage the setting, because if you're going to be in like a campaign that's like a year or two long, you don't want
a year or too long.
Yeah, we played for 2 years, I think.
Yeah. No, these campaigns can last for years. Like that's
like the adventure could last for years.
Isn't that great, people?
Yeah, it's fucking amazing. It's
my favorite part about it.
It's basically like you're doing collective storytelling. So you are creating an epic while you're playing, and it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's such a great cooperative storytelling. But like so, if you're in a setting that you're going to be playing for like 2 years, maybe you don't want your guy named Buttermilk Buzz beard, or something like that. Their attack is like squeezing udders at you. That's probably not something that you want.
your
That's
adventures
a
are
joke that's going to get
fucking
old
creative.
real
Awesome.
fast,
Right,
and
right.
also not going to age well. Hopefully.
Yeah,
So.
milk doesn't age well, so yeah,
Yes.
the udder is the milk.
There's the joke.
Got
Okay,
it.
cool. So there we go. And we get that. And we
Bam.
can only say that joke so many times,
Yeah.
especially on air. But yeah, when you're doing like things like one shots, which are
Right.
games that you just like play once, go ham. I had this one character who was like this surfer dude. I even wore sunscreen.
surfer dude in D-
on my face.
Yeah, surfer dude in
He was a
D&D.
surfer dude
Wow,
bard, and he
that's
was
awesome.
like, yeah, bro. And we had like a turtle other part of our party, which is like
Yeah.
a turtle person. And so I absolutely did. A thing where I was like, we were going down a snowy mountain, and I like casted Blizzard with a didgeridoo, and I jumped on the back of the turtle, and we were like, righteous.
Wait, what did you do with the
It was fucking-
didgeridoo?
Yeah.
You casted it with the
Yeah,
didgeridoo?
so some items in like fantasy TTRPGs have magic infused in them, and you can like cast spells with them, or they give you special
Now wait a minute.
abilities.
Is this real magic?
I mean, it's real magic
So
because you
what-
get to have amazing fun with your friends.
So
I
at
think
this
that's real
point, you're
magic.
going down to Snow Hill, and
Yeah.
what was casted out of the didgeridoo?
Yeah, so as a bard, you can play songs or
Oh, right.
use a charisma
bard.
Riz as the new
They
generation.
do. They
say.
call it Riz now.
They do call it Riz.
People don't know that the Riz is short for charisma. A lot of people are
This
like,
is
"Oh,
new
that's
to me.
sad." That's neat. See, he didn't know either.
Have you ever seen the movie Zero Charisma?
No,
I haven't seen that either.
I
That
keep
sounds
on
weird.
telling everybody how you guys play D&D, and I know about the weird indie D&D movie. No, it's called Zero Charisma. If anybody has seen it, they'll know it's a hilarious movie, and anybody that likes Dungeons and Dragons would greatly. I mean, it's about Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
It's about someone who gets a little upset that his team is playing with somebody else,
Yeah.
and shit goes down. Yeah,
That's
you know who
another
doesn't
big
like D&D?
thing. It's awesome.
You know who does not like D&D? Like suburban parents in the 90s during the Satanic Panic.
of course.
Yeah, so I have to ask TJ, since you're a D&D expert, is D&D, is it satanic?
If you're actually talking about the actual
Is it evil?
But it
literal,
depends on what you
Well, hold
view
on, hold on.
satanic.
Will it warp my
Satanism
child's
is.
mind?
it depends on your literal definition. If you're going with the literal definition of like what the Satanic Temple is, like
Right.
what are their tenets? Is like logic and reason over the written word and everything, and make
Correct.
sure you care for people and believe in science. And
Imagine that.
care- and do medicine and all
hell?
this thing.
I know, it
So I
sounds
mean,
confusing.
I kind
sounds
of
evil as
Yeah,
hell.
I mean, like it's all about
Yeah, I'm
community,
evil, baby.
and not just believing in numinous just because.
Evil
And,
is love.
Critical thinking is big in there. So yeah, of course.
We were talking a little bit the other day, just in our own personal conversations, about how reality is kind of like fracturing into many different
It's like the metaverse.
Yeah, it's like the
Marvel
metaverse. It's like a multiverse in real life where, depending on who you are, like I'm asking you if it's satanic, and you're like, yeah, according to the tenets of the Satanic Temple, which
Yeah.
is good,
Yeah,
and we love
it is
that.
very
I don't
good.
think that's what they mean. I don't. I don't
well,
think
that's
they're
the
thinking
thing.
about the temple. They're thinking about like old world devil, like Beelzebub,
Yeah.
down in fire and brimstone.
Sure, there, but that's also a big thing of ignorance too. I mean, how much do you want to go by deconstructing the Bible or a bunch of other organized religions?
The Bible?
The Bible.
I read that book.
But don't they say that hell is just one big ass party?
Well, one of the popes said it doesn't even
I've read
exist.
hell are you referring to?
I used
So-
to read a lot of Mad Magazine, and according to Mad Magazine, hell looked fucking awesome.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, so if you really want to go into
all
it,
my friends are
there's-
down there.
There's you could go the 9 circles of hell, like Dante's
Dante.
Inferno, and there's also the 9 hells in actual Dungeons and Dragons canonical Wizards of the Coast.
Does that mean that in
Faerun
your
lore,
world- in your
and
world are
each
there
one is
9
different.
hells?
No,
there just one hell?
So because I created my world from scratch, and obviously I took inspiration from many, 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 many other things.
What did
And,
you steal from? Let me know. I'm kidding.
So okay,
can't steal
but
an
I have
art, by
a
the
good
way.
question. I have a good question for
Sure,
you.
Yeah.
sure.
Oh, I'll ask it now.
Okay.
No. Okay, so Dungeons
So
and
you're
Dragons
in one
started-
of the 9 hell. I'm in one of the 9 hells
we are
right now.
definitely-
Yeah. This is hell.
This
Yeah.
is hell.
This is
oh,
podcast
that's
hell.
confirmed. No,
Yeah.
as a dungeon master, game master, have you ever it was like, oh shit, I want to get one of those old pre-written adventures from
Oh.
the '80s. I just want to fucking roll with it, or
For
maybe
collector's
even
purposes, absolutely,
take
yeah.
it or use it and modify it. Use the base of that adventure, but modify it to what you're doing in your campaign, like
Yeah.
old vintage pre-written
Absolutely. That's
Awesome.
actually that's actually a
super
big
cool.
thing. One of my friends who actually one of the party members in the players in one of my campaigns actually has his first edition D&D book that his like dad had.
Does he
It's
bring
a
it
really
out all
good-
the time and
He
everyone
brought it to
touches
us and
it,
showed it.
looks at it?
I mean, I hope we don't touch it that often because it would really fuck it
The
up.
oil's in your fingers. It's
Yeah,
gonna ruin the
You know,
page.
you
there
have
is
to
a big-
because it might go on sale. We're gonna see like the first DM books going on Christie's eventually after.
no, they're
after
already-
Lucky Time
doubt
Explosion
it.
popularizes
They're-
Dungeons and Dragons to the fine
They're
art world.
massively on eBay. They're like they sell for
Yeah.
a lot. But like I'm a big like as much as I like love modules and I love to support people who make modules and I'm like totally down for that because that like really helps a lot of people, especially like because coming up with like a whole adventure, a whole world, a bunch of players, like a whole call to adventure from scratch is very daunting and can be very intimidating and it's not for everyone. And for me, I'm like a very hyper fixated ADHD like got to make everything from scratch like obsessive anal retentive type of person. So I have to do it all from scratch.
It's like scanners. Our heads are gonna explode in 2 seconds.
So like, but there's definitely those modules there, and they're very, very helpful. Like modules aren't like for me, like for the games that I run with some of my friends, they don't always fit as well because I can sometimes feel a little restrictive. But then it also goes through this like really beautiful kind of paradigm of philosophy of like trying to keep your players on the rails and trying to keep them on the tracks.
Oh,
on the
Lord,
train
I know
tracks.
about that struggle.
Yeah. And so many people are like, hey, how do I keep my players focused? How do I keep them on the rails? How do I keep the story moving forward? How do I go to the next page
And you're
of
like,
the module?
put them a shot collar on
And
them.
I
Pay attention.
am a bit of a chaos gremlin when it comes to that. And
You're a chaos gremlin?
A chaos gremlin, as you would. So kind of like a dice goblin, distant cousin. But they like, and I'm like, no, dude. If your players go off the rails, make new fucking rails. Like, just lean in. This goes back to something you taught me.
What do you
when
mean?
we were in a con artist collective
Oh,
together?
yeah.
And I was like, I want to do this thing, and I want to do this thing, but people keep thinking that I'm this other thing. And you said, dude, lean in. If they think you're this other thing and like, it's doing well and it helps you and you're happy with it, lean the fuck in. And I was like,
Yeah.
that's it. And I mean, it's become a huge philosophy with a lot of the things I do, even in life.
Go
like,
with the
lean in.
flow.
So you've been
Yeah.
making, off the top of your head, I mean, obviously a tough
All the time.
question.
Yeah, prompt me. Let's
How
go.
many adventures have you? I mean, I know they're all kind of interconnected
quantify
anyways.
it?
Yeah, how do you quantify?
Yeah, how
That's a
many?
good question. Like,
We have like, as far as like anywhere like between 4 and 8 hour sessions.
Yeah.
We have done.
Oh, you guys
hundreds.
are going for less time than we used to go.
100. Yeah, we have done. Dude, we were young and we were able to do 13-hour sessions.
I miss it. I would always,
I-
you guys would be mad at me if I showed up like 15 minutes late, and I'd be like, "We're starting at like 11 a.m.
That's
and
because-
going till 4 in the
that's
fucking
a huge,
morning."
That's
You're
a huge
leaving
no.
out the
my
fact.
So that's a big as a GM DM. That's a big no. Like if someone shows up, like what is the acceptable lateness time?
Okay,
Yeah, that's
so
a good question.
2 things. The reason why we got upset
Never
is
be late.
because I would call you an hour and a half before the game, and you'd be like, "Okay, I'm up," and then I would call you a half an hour later because it
Yeah.
took you 45 minutes to get here, and you say I'm up, and sometimes you'd still be late or still go back to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
So,
I have this thing. I have this magic power where my body like wants me to sleep, and I used to do this as a child too. My parents would try to get me up, and I would wake up, look them in the eyes, like open my eyes and go, I am awake, I'm getting dressed, I'm
also-
ready, and then they would leave and I would fall back down. And the only reason I found out that I was doing that is because they came in and they were screaming at me in the morning, and I go, why do you guys yell at me every morning? Every goddamn morning I wake up, you're screaming at me to wake up. This is a horrible way to wake up. And they're like, Brandon, we've been in your room like 5 times, and you tell us you're gonna wake up, you get up and look at us. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like I was totally doing it in my sleep. So you probably talked to me in a sleep state a few times.
That happens. Fugue states happen. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of like whether it be unfortunate or not, or like has nothing to do with it. But I think it's all still very beautiful. Is that there's a lot of neurospicy, neurodivergent, ADHD spectrum people
Neurospicy.
that find themselves in the nerdy communities, especially in the TTRPG world. They find an escape. They find a way that they're welcome. They find like a very, very good community that it's like very supportive. And I think that's beautiful. I think
Yeah.
that's great. One of the things I wasn't even the GM at that time when I
Oh,
was doing
yeah.
it, and I was still because that's one of the things like the GM puts an immense amount of work into this for you. They do
Yeah.
so much work.
They're building the world,
I have pictures.
basically.
I have pictures of like maps, like really complex maps that I have made and put a ton of.
Have you ever
from
showed
scratch.
them in an art show?
The maps? No, they're more like cartography maps.
Right.
Yeah,
But that would still be awesome.
I mean, like, they're up on our Discord channel and they're up on our website and stuff like that. But like, this is for the players. I print them out, I put them on in frames, and I hang them up. Like, we have like artists that do our like character art, and
nice.
and I understand like the struggle from.
There's a lot of struggle to try and get paid for doing creative work you love.
I don't
Although
like
D&D's
haggle.
got like kind of a built-in audience that are buying stuff already, so
Yeah.
it's kind of nice to be able to just fill the shoes and become like the set maker or the figure maker. Now we've been talking a lot about D&D.
Sure.
But one thing we didn't do is define it really easy. So I'm going to challenge you because I know you like to go in depth. Give me the simplest definition. Give like the 4-year-old, smooth brain people listening, going, "What the hell are they talking about? Game Masters, Dungeon Masters. What is Dungeons and Dragons?" And why is it creative?
You want the question to be limited to Dungeons and Dragons, or just TTRPGs, tabletop role-playing games, and collective
Just
storytelling?
Dungeons and Dragons.
Just Dungeons and Dragons.
Keep it simple, yeah.
Canonical or?
No, like a simple explanation. Like, what the hell is it? How do you play it?
Okay, basically, it is a way to kind of play a game, but mostly creative storytelling in which one person kind of sets the scene and the world. It's kind of like acting a little bit with a bunch of friends and people who personify different characters or different personalities, or I have this other philosophy about your first character you make is always a version of yourself or how you want to view yourself.
Makes sense.
But
and they also to relate that to art. They always say if you draw a portrait, you always paint yourself a little bit.
Yeah, it's a bit of a
like it looks like you, like the bone structure
Absolutely.
ends up looking like you.
Exactly, yeah, and I think
Same thing in your
that
character.
prevails, like it permeates all art. I think, and especially, and then you start to put
God,
your
how
feelers out into other
self-centered and
things.
just how.
I think it's a human
What's wrong with
experience.
us?
I think it's less narcissistic, and it's a human experience of trying to discover who we are. But anyway, D&D, and then what you do is that you have a setting, you have something that's called a call to adventure. You can or cannot. I mean, the setting can be anything. It doesn't have to be fantasy. It could be sci-fi. It could be space. It could be whatever.
What's the most famous sci-fi one? The tabletop game. There's another one that's really big.
Oh, well, like one of the alien ones?
No, is it Cyberpunk?
There's a cyberpunk.
Wasn't there a
one.
cyberpunk kind of like the game that came out with Keanu Reeves? But I thought that was like the biggest
There's
sci-fi
an alien one.
There's an alien one.
Yeah, there's like Fallout ones.
I've seen
There's
a lot of people
Wasteland
adapt
ones.
the D&D system specifically to different scenarios.
Have you ever
But
merged worlds?
Let me answer your question.
Mm-hmm.
So D&D is then, and so what you do is that you create some sort of thing. The GM is in charge of the world and how the world reacts to the players. But the players are pretty much the ones that the GM is just very reactive. It does.
Right.
It just all they do are in charge of how the world reacts to what the players do, and there's always some sort of problem or something. Maybe they discover it. Maybe you come up with another thing. And what you do is that you roll dice to simulate randomness. So like, hey, I want to riz this person. I want to like get information from this person about the problem that they're having with the sheep or whatever. And they're like, oh,
With the sheep?
Yeah, I mean, you just make up shit.
I see what kind of campaigns you guys
All right.
I'm out of here.
Don't roll for sodomy. But like, okay, well, yeah, and then they roll like whatever and everything. They add their bonuses because people build their characters just like you would in a video game. They have like bonuses. Everybody has like different stats, and like if they do really well, then they succeed at what it is they wanted to do, and perhaps even more. If they don't, then funny, crazy, sad things might happen.
It's what you want to do, and then it's left up to chance by the dice.
Yeah,
Let me
the
ask
dice
you,
simulate randomness,
as
and they
a
can do
DM,
some really crazy stuff.
I'm sure you've written a lot of campaigns, adventures. Was there ever one that you were
Well,
just
we
like,
together write them, really, honestly.
What was one of like moments where you're like, this is the coolest, this right here.
Oh my God,
this
there's
is,
so many.
This is I just came up with this. They're gonna be so thrilled.
Can I say one from our
moments?
Let me. Can I answer that kind of with one of my favorite moments? It was in
Did
our
you write
campaign
this?
together.
Or
No, TJ helped
you
write
wrote
this
together-
because he's a part of
got it.
it.
That's the thing. It's like nobody's one person is writing it.
Right, the DM has control,
It's
but the
collective
players
storytelling.
decide what happens.
It's like improving off each other all the
So
time.
one of the moments that got me hooked on D&D that made me want to keep playing it forever was our campaign, and I was a new player.
Yeah.
And you were doing a rogue thing, and so you were checking for traps every fucking inch we went, right? You're
I was an
"Check for
edgelord,
traps,
that
check
was
for
a
traps."
mistake.
I checked for traps, and you're like really anal about covering all the traps. And one of the things that got me excited was aggravating you. And so like my favorite thing to do would
me
be
the
like,
player or my
just
character?
You as the player, yeah, but I'm sure that would reflect in your character as well.
Probably,
The
yeah.
same
For that,
thing.
it was one of my earlier characters.
It was
So
your
yeah,
early earlier characters, but like my
I have
favorite moment
learned
was
a lot.
we go and like I would just do dumb stuff because you were trying to be very careful. I would do dumb shit.
Yeah, because
just
I was
to
trying to
upset
win.
you.
I was doing the wrong thing. I was trying to win, and that's not what it's about.
So we walked into this like cave, and there was a pool in this cave, and we're all like checking the pool out. And then I look and like, you know, he's like, oh, I'm like looking at it from a distance, and I look at Nick, and I was like, I cannonball into the well, you know, in the secret well, and you were like, what the fuck are you doing?
Lay
oh
gas.
my god! and I was just like, the reaction out of you I got was like, this is fun. I like this. And then I got rewarded with dwarven gold coins at the bottom.
Gorf?
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 No, dwarven gold
Oh,
coin.
Dwarven. Because I
Dwarven.
think there was an
DW.
Atari 800 game called Gorf.
Oh, it's Gorn, I think.
No, Gorn's the VR title.
I
They
think
made
it
it.
might
I think
be
they
Gorf.
remade it. I think but anyway,
Oh,
could be
it's a
wrong.
remake.
I think it's a remake.
Oh,
but
that's
like,
cool.
yeah, but you know what? That's really interesting because it is so necessary. When you have like a group of players,
Yeah.
it's really important to have the himbo and like have the person that doesn't always murder hobo. Please don't do that. But like, I mean, like, unless your party is about that or whatever. That's
Wait,
your
did you
campaign,
say please don't be a murder hobo or please don't murder
it's
hobos?
a type of like character that people play. But
murder
they just go around and like kill NPCs and take their
That's
stuff
an
and just
awesome
be like, what are you gonna do about
concept.
it?
The
Wait,
murder hobo?
for those just
Yeah.
listening at home, like there's a sparkle in Morgan's eyes right now
Yeah.
when they're about.
That's an awesome name.
Oh, no, what have
the
I done?
Murder Hobos?
So
Dude, we're going home right now and starting rocking out.
Oh,
please
hell
don't
yeah.
do that.
We're gonna
Please don't- I
ban.
should not have said that. Please don't do that.
Hobos.
You never know what's gonna get Morgan's going.
Sorry, that
You
really
could- we got to get him in a
spiked my
camera.
little tweezers.
If your party is full of a bunch of people that
Yeah.
are super, super careful, you need someone that's just going to be like, ah, fuck it. You know what?
Yeah,
we
totally.
got, because you got to keep it moving. And that's like, it's super important. Like, I mean, Sean was like this Cronin barbarian that was just like, I want to whack. And
Yeah.
he whacked, and he did really good whacking. And it was great.
Please
And,
rephrase that.
He swung his flesh sword. I mean, sword.
He did.
but yeah, like when you talk about like those epiphanies, like, oh man, this is a beautiful twist. Oh, this is a great thing. Like, there's so many. It happens all the time. Like, probably twice a week. Like, I think of something and think, oh, this is going to be really, really cool. But you don't. One of the things you always have to temper with that, just like you would with art, is that you don't always get the opportunity to capitalize on every idea that you come up with. Like,
Right.
sometimes the story doesn't go the direction that you want it to go,
Yeah.
and you don't get to do that big reveal.
Did
You
Yeah,
you
don't
ever
get to-
have a
sometimes
team-
the world's not ready for your butt paintings. You
yeah,
know?
I mean, you know, that's sure, odd way to put it, but that
Do you
works.
ever have a team with someone who was a chaotic character?
Oh yeah, you have
Yeah,
to.
no,
Everyone
you
Just
have
loves
straight
playing
up looking to
chaotic.
fuck shit
You have
up.
to. That's the thing. Like, managing expectations, like reading the tables, same thing as like reading your audience and being a
Right.
curator and understanding like the setting you're in. It's the same thing. Like how serious am I going to go with this campaign based on who's playing? I know these people's personalities. I know the characters that they're playing. Like
I see.
Yeah.
So you do
So
something.
all these things are taken into
yeah. So there's
consideration.
another philosophy to that, which is
Right.
called catering to your players, not pandering to them. Which is
Right.
like same thing with artists and stuff. You cater to your audience. You don't pander to
Or
them.
your
Yeah, because if
patron.
you're
your
catering,
patron,
if
yeah.
you're, if
Or
you're
you have
catering-
an
Yeah.
actively aggressive, like, you know, antagonizing toward your patron. That seems to be popular in the art world
Yeah,
too right now.
there's also a
like,
whole warlock
oh, you
thing with
wanna
that.
you wanna buy my art? You're a fucking idiot. Shut up. And then they're like, wow, I need that. I need that now.
Masochistic reverse psychology.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
wonderful.
weird.
Yeah, there's so many like parallels between them, but yeah, you know, it happens all the time, and you just have to temper yourself, especially as a GM.
Maybe as an artist, I should have brand. Every time I'll tell people, like, if you buy a piece, see that guy over there? Like, yeah, he's gonna knock me out in front of you.
What?
Yeah, you buy that piece.
Oh, like an
if
interactive
you
art
buy
piece.
He's gonna come over
And he's gonna
knock
punch me in the
wig
face.
right off my skull.
And you just beg them not to buy the piece? And he
No.
goes, please don't. I don't want to get hit.
no,
No.
that should entice them.
Oh.
So I get popped in the head.
Oh.
In this day and age, I think that's a great selling point.
There's also a bunch
I
of
still
players
don't
that are
understand.
like, I'm in
You've
there for the
lost me,
combat.
Mark. What are you talking about? I'm going to hit you anyway.
Well, they're also
as long as you film it, then we'll
Okay.
sell work.
All right.
yeah.
I'm gonna it was just a slow motion video, you know, of you getting
Yeah.
punched
It's like
in the face
the
over and over
player's
again.
vulgar display of power
Black and
by
white has to be
Pantera.
in black and white.
There are players and characters that are like all in it for the combat. They love the combat. They're
Yeah.
not really into the role play as much, and they just
we
want
did a
the
lot
combat.
of we did
We
a
did both.
role play heavy game.
did. And
So, like, if
some
you went
days
to a
we, like-
battle,
yeah.
you physically went into a battle?
Yeah, we
Has
stand
that-
up and no, we wouldn't
No,
fight.
no,
How-
you
does that
use
happen?
dice. You
It
roll
just
for
like a
initiative.
form?
and you
game,
use-
the game changes a lot when you enter combat because then you enter like restrictions about moving your character
like
around, what you
action
can
turns,
do.
time that goes by, like
If
what
you're
you
in
can
role
do.
play, you're like, I want to run up that mountain with my super speed, and they're like, okay,
Okay,
roll a
cool.
dice.
Yeah.
Did you make it or not? But if
It's a
you're
time thing.
if you're in combat, it's like I want to go that way, and they're like, okay, move your guy this.
Because
this
every
many
round is
paces.
like 6 seconds, so like it's
Yeah.
far more segmented. Where like if you're role play, you get a little bit more freedom to like
would
kind of
take
do whatever.
forever, right?
Yeah, you just don't
Yeah.
enter initiative.
What do you think the
Initiative is like entering
ratio?
combat time.
What do you think the ratio of your Dice of Ages stuff is role play to combat?
I think I think we're just a little bit more role play than we are combat, but I try to keep it pretty even. But I
Yeah.
also I actually don't make too much of an effort to try to push towards a certain ratio. I really want them to be like wherever the story goes. If combat's what's going to happen, then combat happens. If it makes sense for combat to happen, if it doesn't, if they bypass the combat by doing something really crazy that they don't have to fight, then they don't have to fight. But
Right.
I still have to prepare like 6 different maps just in case.
That's
Wild.
true. We got
Yeah.
about a minute on the free show left, so we're going to be going in. We're going to keep talking to TJ on our. I was with TK Mills last night. I was judging his art battle. That's why like TK is in my head. We're going to keep talking to TJ before we go and we get into the secret Patreon only hour-long
I should
edition.
plug, right.
This is a plug, yeah. So give me us a plug. Where can we find you?
So we're Dice of Ages. You can find us at diceofages.com. We stream on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. You can find a lot of our stuff on YouTube. We have 3 campaigns: the Argent Flame, the Baker's Dozen. A lot of these people are here
Nice,
today.
nice.
And C3, which is the Crestfallen Cold Iron Coalition. They're all in the same homebrew world. We have a bunch of stuff. We have a Discord. We have an Etsy print shop. We print out a lot of stuff. So yeah, go check it
Very
out.
nice. Yeah, check it out. Check out Dice of Ages. And stick around if you want for the rest of the episode on Patreon. Alrighty.
I remember when I used to do that, sync up the audio with the clap.
Oh, yeah, it's fun, right? I have an actual clapper. I just haven't brought it out that much.
Like a clapper?
Yeah, like, the...
Oh, the toy.
Yeah, no,
Oh.
like the thing the film makers use.
The
actual clap
action.
stick.
I was
The
thinking
clap
about
stick.
clap on, clap off.
I was thinking,
which, like,
we're all like musicians, so I was thinking like, you mean the slapstick that they do in auxiliary percussion?
It's sort of like that, but it just has,
Yeah.
has a little, you write what take it is on
Yeah,
top
it's
of
the,
it.
I feel
like
like
the
this-
checkered top. And
Yeah,
everything.
the
yeah.
clapper was really ahead of its time.
You mean the
I
light
I was
switch, don't you?
amazed when I was
Yeah.
a kid, but like, really clap on, clap off?
We've gone
Fucking wild.
So this is what I mean by going off the rails. You just left the lean in because now
Yeah.
we're just talking about the clapper, and that's okay.
You remember the clapper?
I remember the clapper. Clap on, clap off.
I feel like
Clap
if you're
on, clap off. The
You're
clapper.
old.
if you're having really hard,
If you have one of these, you're 80 years old and
I
living in
feel like
Florida.
if you're having very hard sex,
Yeah.
it would go on and off and be like a strobe light.
You know how
It'll
old
be
that
like
joke
this
is, and it
disco
still
death
slaps.
sex party with the clapper. It'd be like
It still claps. Clap those
Sorry.
cheeks.
You got to get the right rhythm.
So
for
TJ,
sure.
I know sexuality sometimes comes into the game.
Oh, it does.
Yeah. Some
but
people
it's
get a little
also-
horny at the table.
Really?
Well, hold on.
I
Hold
think
on.
so.
No,
They're
hold
like,
on.
I'm really attracted to the dragon we're fighting right now. I'd
Yeah,
rather
they're
You have
like-
instead
no
of
idea how many
attack it-
bards try to fuck dragons.
Really?
Okay, all the time.
Shut the fuck up.
All the
I told
time.
you.
It's-
Explain.
It's a big thing. It's a huge
Yeah.
thing. Okay, so wait. Let me actually answer this because
Okay.
this
This
is
is
important.
awesome.
Because this is actually kind of a sensitive subject and it's really important because it's really important to manage expectations at the table and these types of things. So if people are, because some people are like not super comfortable talking about that stuff at the table, and you want them to make sure that they're
Right.
not triggered and they feel welcome.
Right.
So like a lot of times you can use this thing of like, oh, okay, you want to engage in whatever it is you want to engage here, fade to black. Cool. You did the thing, fade to black. We're going to move on to a different
I
scene.
Fade to
see.
black.
Yeah.
So, like when you're a kid and you're watching a movie with your parents
you
and there's a
can.
sex scene, you have to close your eyes.
It's all, and
and then you open them and it's gone.
Well, it all has to do with like who's at the table. Like if you
Right.
guys are all explicit and you're playing like kinks and cantrips and you really want to like get into that stuff, and you're in the privacy of your own home and everybody has consented and agreed to
Right.
that's what you want to do,
Right.
and the vibe's not weird. I mean, if that's what you want
Could
to
you
do, you
give
can do
us
whatever
an
you want.
example
Just
of
make
one
sure
of
you're
these
being
times?
safe. What?
Wait,
Could you
I-
give an example of one of these particular times with
Like
the bard?
personally?
Yeah,
well,
really.
and
Or
you
just
you
like
did
a-
mention that many bards have
Oh,
tried
it's
to
a
bring
common-
dragons to bed.
It's a
Oh
common
my God.
circumstance
So
and a trope
explain
that
like a
happens.
circumstance, like you're in bed. Like I gotta hear this.
And
I'm
explain
sorry, I
how
have
that
to
would
hear
how
this.
that would work in
I mean,
graphic
like, look,
detail.
Shrek showed you just that you didn't know it was D&D. But I mean, so like it's a lot of times, so a dragon is one of the most, it just in a lot of TTRPG games that have dragons in them, dragons
Mm-hmm.
are one of the most fearsome and dangerous creatures there are because they're
beautiful.
Yes, they can be very gorgeous, which is why they can be legendary, they can be young, whatever, and so they have magic, and they're very, very, very strong, and they're very
Right.
big, and so some people would like to. What if I had them as an ally? Or like, what if I befriended them? Or how can I like bypass this combat with this thing if they're like, violent, and how do I, get myself out of this situation without
How do I
getting
make it my lover?
being crushed?
That's what I'm going for.
And so a lot of the bards, I mean, so one of the bards have a very high stat usually. I mean, if you build your bard traditionally as like
so
in
bards
charisma,
usually charisma's
and
high
so they're
with
good at
bards.
like
Yeah.
persuasion, deception, performance, and intimidation, stuff
Right.
like that. And so persuasion, like,
Do
and so,
bards
like,
give any characters roofies?
if you're
There's no
doing that,
roofies in
I
Magical.
highly suggest you stop. Please don't do that.
Please don't do that.
Please don't do that. I mean, like, again, a lot of this has to do with consent at the table.
Yeah, you have to
like-
you have to
so that's
gather
a big
everyone.
no-no. Roofies
Yeah,
is bad.
yes.
Yeah, generally.
Roofies are always bad, and yeah, that's kind of like, that's always a big no-no.
So consent in Dungeons and Dragons is very important.
Consent in
yeah.
everything is important.
That's
You got to
true.
get together at the table and go, who here is not comfortable with goblin cock? And who here?
I am a little bit too comfortable with Goblin Cock.
That's
Yeah.
actually a great band. If you don't
There's
know.
you
another-
can get
oh,
on
that
bands
is
like
a
that.
band.
Yeah.
That's
There's
a
a
good
band
band.
called Goblin Cock?
They're great. They're like a doom metal band. Yeah, awesome.
Shit, that's awesome.
Goblin
But yeah,
cock.
so it does happen. And that's okay. And sometimes those can be really, really funny because let's say, so a natural 1 is like the worst you can roll on a d20, 1 to 20, and a natural 20 is the best you can roll. And usually, like, natural 1 is like the worst thing that could possibly happen, and a natural 20 is the best thing that could possibly happen. Obviously, you still have modifiers you add to those things, but there you go.
Right.
It's either
And-
guaranteed failure or
So,
guaranteed win, right?
Like when you get a natural 1 trying to persuade the dragon to like be with you, then
Say that-
And
say that
this
noise
has
again.
happened
Bad
in one of
things
your.
might happen.
This is right.
not like personally. I don't think I remember. Like I don't think personally for me, but I mean I've heard stories. I mean like it's not hard to imagine. Like
Right.
obviously something's gonna happen. Like you can just fade to black and say you died via snoo snoo, and like just move on.
Snoo snoo.
You know,
If
death
you
by
got
death
easy,
by
and then
snoo.
that player has to accept their fate. Like,
Yeah, I mean, granted, you also like try to understand that your players put a lot of energy into making their characters.
You don't wanna kill them too quick.
Yeah, you don't want to
Yeah.
be like, oh well, you're died, you're done, you can't
Well,
play
you shouldn't
anymore
have fucked
because
the
like that
dragon.
sucks. So, yeah, I mean, but you can
like he's
still
gonna tear
do,
you apart.
You can still do like consequences
Right.
without like being like, oh, you can't play anymore.
But they should
'cause
be
that
aware.
sucks.
If you're being serious about this and you try to roll the dice with betting a dragon, there's a very good chance, like you
Exactly.
said, you're going to come fade in death by snoo snoo.
That's the thing. Catering
Got
to
it.
your players, managing expectations, realizing like, yes, you will have consequences, but it's also like you have to make sure. Ooh, like there's a big philosophy thing about like when people like don't like being wrong. It's not because they don't want to be wrong. It's because they're emotionally invested in being right.
Of course.
So when people like contradict them or try to like teach them new things, then they feel like they're being personally
So let
attacked.
me ask you,
So
have
you don't
you-
want to bring your own personal feelings into like being like, oh well, you're not being serious with my game, so you die. Don't do that.
Right,
Right.
yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, that's yeah.
that's-
Have you ever had a blowout, like someone like really upset with one of the decisions you've made?
Oh.
Like just flip the table,
As me, the
smash your
DM?
minis,
Yes,
run
you're the
out.
DM, like the player's like, I can't believe you, like very upset with the decision that you've made.
I think there might have been a time or two where we had the potential to do that, and like a few of us saw it coming, and we try to like manage the situation
Right.
and try. So like that's a very Aikido thing to do. It'd be like I hear you're getting frustrated and you want to do this type of thing. You
Right,
have a
right,
type
right.
of spell that does the thing that you want, and it's right here. Do you want me to help you do the thing? And it's like redirecting that energy, and that really helps a lot because you don't like. It's hard to say no. You don't always
So
want to say no.
people,
You
there
can
is a
say
serious
no.
art to being a dungeon. It's
Yes.
not just be like tell a tale. You
You're
have an
hurting
adventure.
cats all the time. I mean,
That's
it's
what I say. Like
deep,
managing
deep,
artist
deep,
is
deep.
akin to.
Yeah, and
I always say it's
'cause you're
akin to
managing
hurting
actors.
cats.
You're managing actors that aren't professional actors. I mean,
Yeah.
well, most of the time, and like and the other side, I have been on the other side. I have in my younger, less experienced, and not as mature days. I've blown up. We've all made mistakes. I've blown up. I've been in campaigns that I've had other people blow up. I mean, like, yeah.
I used to rely on it for my entertainment.
Yes, it has happened. You were there. Like, and it was rough.
I was causing it.
and it can be a problem, but like you got to learn from that. And
It adds
a
to
lot
the
of that had to do.
experience, though.
I think
Like,
so, I
you
think
know,
so.
it definitely.
A lot of that had to do with like
Yeah.
us taking it as a personal attack, and it wasn't. Like we're just playing a game. Like it's okay. Like it's okay. to
This is
just
not a
move on.
game. This is life, asshole.
Yeah. That's,
Well, it is. It feels like life when you put like 13 hours a week
Exactly,
into it.
Right.
exactly.
And escapism. It's like escapism, but also I feel like it's very positive. I don't buy the the whole satanic panic '90s stuff on it, because
No, that was
I think
propaganda.
that it's very much a creative game that will help you like work through things in your brain and your life, and whether that's like a reaction to other people,
Imagine that,
how
like-
your character. It's almost like
It's cathartic.
It's almost like therapy when you sit down
Yes.
with your role play and you're in therapy. You know,
I have
it's
another
very
philosophy.
similar.
Have you
Think
ever
about this,
used
dude.
like a situation in Dungeons and Dragons that you're like in a point in your real life and you remember a situation that was similar in a Dungeons and Dragons campaign and you actually use that to help yourself in real life?
Every fucking day, man.
Every
That's
day.
awesome.
Every fucking day. Every
Fuck
fucking
yeah.
day. Like I say this thing about like how it's very cathartic. You can learn a lot about yourself. You can learn about like how you can deal with situations, and you can have some very emotional breakthroughs with this stuff. It can be therapeutic. I don't think it
yeah.
should be therapy, because
Yeah.
you don't want to put that burden on everybody else at the table.
Right.
To
Yeah,
be
yeah,
to
yeah.
have like to be them entirely responsible for your emotional and mental. And there's that trust. There's that little bundle of trust.
You don't want
that
it to
you
be
give
like
to your GM.
Krognar breaks down. He can't handle his car payments, and his dad's gonna die. And you're like, oh, you're like, wait a minute, what are you talking about?
I mean, and that's okay, like, because people go through things, and like it
Yeah.
can be a form of escapism. Like you were just talking about how, like, you know, that like, you know, some people find it because they don't really have anywhere else to go, or like, you know, it's a nice place to do it. And I think it's far more. It's not causation; it's correlation when it comes
Yeah.
to that type of thing. And it's really important, because what it is literally a community of people that are supporting each other, coming up with stuff and improving and.
Yeah.
Working as a team with
Yeah.
very little to none real world consequences.
That's the thing that I love about Dungeons and Dragons so much, and I think one of the reasons that I got such an escape from it was because of the team aspect of it, like the other people aspect. Making art can be a very like a lonely endeavor, and most of the artists that I talk to. Normally when they're in an art environment, like when they come here to Sola Studio, by the way, come here to Sola Studio for your prints, your recording.
Oh, yeah, I do it all the time.
Dang thing. Hey, Sola Studio, check us out. But when they come here, they'll be like, you know, I get this feeling that they're like scared and coming out of like a cave, like it's a new world for them.
Yeah.
Just because anything related to art, they're like, you know, they're so unsure, and they have like nobody to bounce anything off of. So they feel very like unsure themselves. And I felt that D&D helped me like not feel unsure of myself, because I could go and communicate with other people.
There's
you
so
know?
much self-doubt in the art community, and
Yeah.
it's so rampant.
There's like that Venn diagram that says crippling self-doubt and absolute narcissism, and then
Yeah.
like there's a crossover. It's like art is in the middle, or artist.
It's so unhealthy, and like it's so unfortunate, and like, and that's the thing about like self-doubt too, is like you see self-doubt in the people that you look up to, and like all these other things,
Yeah.
and then in order to like get rid of your self-doubt, you try to be good at everything, and so like your art, you want to like put everything in your art, you put your whole heart in your art and everything, and if you don't get that, you can get that like rejection, sensitive dysphoria type of thing, when people are like, oh no, I don't want to put you in this show, oh no, like,
Right.
and then it just boom, 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 boom. So you like try to compensate by doing all these good things, and like try to like I'm gonna get good at oil painting, I'm gonna get good at acrylics, I'm gonna get good at spray painting, I'm gonna do all these things, I'm gonna be like,
Yeah.
you know, a Renaissance man of art and everything. And then when you realize that like there are other people that also have that type of trauma and they're dealing with it, but you
Right.
can sit at a table with them and talk to them and deal with the story, and you can lean on them and
I think
support
it's
them.
good.
It's amazing.
I was talking about this the other day with an artist friend of mine about the idea of specialization versus having like a jack of all trades kind of characterization.
It was me you were talking to me about.
Were we?
Yeah.
Was because I feel like, you know, you don't want to be limited, but at the same time in
game
art,
done changed.
when you do be limited, and when you do like focus on one thing, you are able to make bigger accomplishments in them. Like I think of, like Morgan, your collage work. You've been doing collage work like specifically for a long time now, and you've got some collages that are absolutely like mind blowing that you've been working on for
thank
fucking
you.
7 years and whatever. They're like fucking 8 feet long and 10 feet tall or whatever.
It's going to be finished soon, I swear to God.
It's someday soon. But do you feel like you've, TJ, you've been like kind of, you've taken a break from like painting and you're putting yourself into D&D right now? Or are you still doing like, I know you're using like building worlds and minis and stuff.
I think that's the thing, is that I think it's
That's
just
the
been
new form.
channeled into a different type of art form, whether
Yeah.
it be like spoken word writing and like other painting. I'm like, fuck, I have this 3D print farm and I print out so much shit and then I paint it by hand, and I've become
Right.
like, I like to think I've become somewhat good at it, and like, you know, people buy it and like people still keep coming back to
Hey,
play the game.
there you
and
go.
like, so you kind of make these kind of like people used to make old train sets and everything, except we do it with like a fantasy town. Then there's a bunch of, then there's like actual little people everywhere, and like you can move yourself around the map and like cast spells during combat, and that's when it's used, and it's great. Yeah, I think I put a lot of my artistic energy into that. I feel like many artists feel this kind of like overwhelming, my cup runneth over of with creativity because they have all these ideas and they feel like they have to capitalize on every single one of them.
Yeah.
And so you have to drain the tank sometimes in some way. You need some sort of outlet, some sort of way to exit it. And I think for me that has been it. I would love to get back to oil painting and stuff like that, but this is it now.
But it's feeling it. That's good, though.
Feels
I think
great.
It's good to
Feels
focus.
great.
Speaking of draining,
you get that feedback.
I want to
a lot
talk
too.
about brain drain a little bit.
Sure.
In New York, and I talk about the
Do you
last thing I want
see
to touch
my
on.
ear leaking again?
No, no, you're fine.
I was worried that maybe you saw that blood pouring from my ear again.
No, I mean the brain drain out of New York City.
So lucky.
I'm talking about the brain drain out of New York City because we met here and we're doing all this stuff here. But you actually are out of New York now. You've moved after the whole. I won't say the C word after the P. Somebody I know calls it the pandy, and I hate that so much. They're like, oh, it's pre-pandy, and I'm like, are we making cute abbreviations for fucking the pandemic now? That's awful. But you kind of fled after that, and a lot of people did too. And I
don't think I was like running away from something.
I framed that badly. I didn't mean
you're fine.
You fled, but there was a mass exodus, and you were part of it.
I was running to the mountains.
Yeah, you ran
my
to the
partner
mountains.
was like, I really want to be back in the mountains.
So for people who are in New York now, as artists listening, what do you think about the two? Like, how do you like that decision? Like, talk to me a little bit about the city. Do you miss it?
You want me to like compare apple to oranges?
Yeah, apples to oranges a little bit.
I mean, like, if we're talking like Denver.
I guess I want to say. I guess the way to put it is like, how do you put the city in perspective? Do you have any new thoughts on the city after leaving it?
I think that the pandemic has irrevocably changed New York City as a beast, a creature society, a culture as a whole, entirely in every facet possible. I think that it was an entirely different creature before, and although there are definitely some nostalgic pieces that are still there, a lot of things have changed. And I don't think that's good or bad. I just think it's just different. There will always be a place in my heart for New York. I love New York. I think it's great. I think it's very hustle and bustle. It's very, very fast.
Yeah.
I think New York, in my experience as I've met with a lot of other people, is that you kind of get what you want from it. And you put your time in, and you realize parts of yourself that you have with it, and because it can be like something that is it requires a lot of your spoons, is what I would say, and it requires a lot of your energy. So yeah, there's a spoon theory where like
Brandon, don't you collect tiny spoons?
Well, no, I'm just like slightly autistic and really love tiny spoons.
It's a metric of like your energy, whether it be mental, emotional, or physical, for like
Tiny spoon club.
burdens. Yeah. So anyway, like I think that New York definitely requires a lot of your spoons, and you take what you need from it, just like you would take your pearl of wisdom, your grain of salt from any guru that you learn from, and just like don't like follow absolutism or anything.
Would you say you'd have to be a masochist to stay in the city? Basically?
I think there's probably a little bit of masochism in everybody who chooses to stay there, especially if they were born and raised there and they want to stay here. And I'm also a very jack of all trades person. You were just talking about this. I'd like to go around and experience everything I can and grab whatever it is I can.
That's living.
Yeah, it's also very ADHD. But like
I got two of them.
But that's interesting because I have ADHD, but on the other hand, I'm like one of those New Yorkers like. I haven't traveled much because that's my own fault, but like I'm just like one of those people who are like.
Do you want to?
Oh yes.
So then that's all you need. You just need an intrinsic desire to learn, and you'll be fine.
I just want to go to Neptune.
Not Uranus.
No. Well, I've been there.
There you go.
Not yours, but someone else's.
I want to die in space. I hope that I end up like dying in the lithium mines on Mars or something.
That sounds awesome.
Like in like some sort of fucking corporate branded jumpsuit, like ting, ting, and I just like clean over, just keel over.
Yeah, like I think that you had said the specializing and jack of all trades. I think the game done changed. I think after internet and all these other things.
Well, the internet definitely changed everything. And people are slow on the uptake about it. It's 2024. It's been changing shit since like '96.
I think it benefits you far more to be a jack of all trades, to be adaptable and like that, and be able to switch gears and pivot so fast than it does to be super specialized. Granted, there's still a market for being specialized.
Yeah, unless you're an artist, which it feels like you want to be really successful as an artist, you have to specialize to such an absurd degree that you have to be like.
But if you're miserable,
I make all my work with frozen peas and toothpicks.
Yeah, and if that's your brand, go for it.
I'm the pea guy.
Yeah.
You know,
And if that's your brand, go for it. But if
Yeah.
it's not working for you and you feel miserable, like feel free to explore.
I think
Like,
artists
try
need to
everything.
explore more.
You
'cause,
may
like,
Yeah.
need to use corn.
Yeah,
and not
you might need
peas.
to use corn instead of peas. A lot of artists do that, where they
Butter
get
cows are a
really
thing?
they get like they get caught up doing one thing that doesn't work, and they see people being really hyper specialized
They get
and
stuck
who are
into-
successful, and they get stuck. They don't explore anymore because they're like,
I
I
put so
know
much
if I
money-
just keep doing my pea
Yep.
sculptures, it's gonna work eventually, and maybe it will. But more likely, you should be trying a ton of shit, and then when something does stick, go
Lean in.
lean in. Then
Yeah, so it's called the sunk cost fallacy. It's pretty much like you
Sunk
spend
cost fallacy?
sunk cost fallacy. It's a big thing in gambling too. Like pretty much when you spend so much, you invest and spend so much time in something, you're like, if it's still not working, you're like, oh, well, I can't quit now because I've wasted so much time. So I need a payout somewhere along the line. So I have
Don't
to
they
keep
call it
going
like
for
true
it.
insanity is
And
keep
that's-
on doing the same thing?
It's
that-
related to
how's
that,
it
yes.
go?
Yeah, that's what they
the
say.
definition of sanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Right.
So like it's the same thing with the sunk cost fallacy. If you like you've invested so much time, so you need to pay out some time. You feel like you need to pay out some time, or you feel like you've wasted all of that time,
Right,
energy, resources,
Right.
and it happens a lot, and people get stuck in that trap
Yeah.
a lot. And it's okay to fish and cut bait.
Yeah.
It's all right. Pivot. It's totally great. Like you live in a world where pivoting is a lot easier than it used to be. Granted, I'm not saying anything is easy. Everything's hard.
I've had the opposite
agree,
problem
I
though.
agree.
I've had to bring my shit back in. I've had mentors tell me like, you're great. You're always like out there trying all these different stuff, but you need to stick with one thing for a little longer. And I think they're kind of right.
That's a
I've
very
found
old
that.
generation thought. Though.
It's an older
I'm-
generation
I'm-
thought. They were like turning 60, but I think they were right because I stuck with my TikTok longer than I wanted to, and I found I got a lot of good stuff out of it, not just like money and
Because we all know you're rich off the TikTok.
Oh,
You're-
super.
still-
so you should look
rich
into
on the
his TikTok.
Basically,
what is your TikTok
dude,
again?
dude,
Wise
it.
Carver at Wise Carver. That's
Dude,
what
He
that's
it is.
teaches
awesome.
art, and if you don't know what he knows, you should watch his TikTok, which means everyone on
Well,
the
no.
planet should. Yeah,
I've
no,
learned
just-
an unimaginable amount of stuff about art history from. I went to music schools. I didn't go to art school.
I was gonna go to music school and I
Yeah.
ended up going to art
But
instead.
I've learned so much from art history from you, and
Well, thank you.
And I think it's great. And like I said, there is honor in labor. There's honor in persistence, and there's honor in putting all that stuff, time into it, and sticking with it. And when you get to the point you have is the hardest part is realizing when you get to the point that I'm miserable and none of this is paying off. If the only thing keeping you there is your previous time spent there, you got to start to reevaluate.
right.
That's it. That's well spoken. I like that.
I agree. And if you're just miserable about it, if you're not finding some satisfaction, at least in yourself, like if you're happy as a clam, cut with your pea sculptures and no one
Yeah.
cares, then keep
Great.
doing
That's
it.
what keep
But if you're
doing.
miserable, I think a
It
lot of artists
feeds you.
Yeah, I think a lot of artists
Literally.
get stuck in that trap. A lot of artists get stuck in that trap where they're like, "Oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. I have my style. I'm supposed to do this," and no one likes it, and then they don't like it anymore, and they are just lying to themselves that they
So
do
focused
like
on
it.
being marketable too.
Yeah, and they're,
and,
like,
But
trying
they
to
don't
make
know
it
they're
so
lying
hard.
to themselves. That's
Yeah.
the thing.
That's another thing. Yeah, self-clash consciousness and self-consciousness of that stuff. That's another thing. Hey, back to D&D really helps you explore who you are.
Yeah.
Like I said, the
I
first
agree.
character that you make is kind of like yourself, and you start to realize oh no, is this how I see myself?
I had to make
Is this
when
how
I had a
want to see
campaign.
myself?
I had to make two. So I had a halfling and a human warrior. And I guess in my mind I was
Did you
somewhere
actually play?
in
Have you
between.
played?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
No, but in the early '90s,
Yeah.
88 to probably.
So were you playing 3.5?
3.5. Oh
the-
yeah,
the
we used the
3.5
old. But
edition?
we used the original books and everything like that. But we were young, so we cheated so bad on our stats. Like someone would turn their heads, you erase strength from this to that. It got out of hand, and to the point where wait a minute.
It's not a game that
Wait
you
a
win
minute.
either.
He should not have the girdle of giant strength. Where did you get the girdle of giant strength plus 10 strength? And you know what I mean?
Well, I
it's
rolled a
like-
natural
you snuck
20
it
at
in
the
there.
I
bar.
know, it
where,
got out
you know,
of hand. It got out of hand.
that's
But
because
that's the
you rizzed
important.
the giant. That's why.
Right, but the thing is, that's the importance of having a really good DM is to keep everyone in check and not every.
Yeah.
Because as a DM, if you're playing with
I'm
the
not your
same people,
babysitter.
I
I'm your
know,
referee.
But have you ever? Okay, here's a question: have you ever played with somebody that you're like, something's not adding up here? Why you
You
that
busted a
shouldn't
cheater?
be-
Sure, I think the
We
best.
busted your
As a
dice.
referee, I mean, you got to
Sure.
act as a referee as well.
I think you best approach those situations with care, and
Have you ever had anybody in
That's a
your
great answer.
team that you're like something's fishy?
Yeah, but I think that again,
Was it me?
you do the same thing about how like most people are going to do when they're called out on something or they're contradicted. They can take it personally. So do it in a way that's very Aikido. Do it in a way where you can be like, hey. Oh, cool. Oh, did you get like if one of the numbers is not added up because you have everybody's stats memorized because you're the GM and sometimes that happens.
That's hardcore.
And you can be like, did I miss something? Did you get a bonus to your intelligence one time that I missed?
Yes. This is like business
just so
talk,
I can
dude.
upgrade
This is
my
PR.
things. Like it's pretty much that. And like and if they say, oh yeah, and then like you can put it in a position where they don't seem to be at fault and everything because and that's okay. Like, I mean, granted, there's a lot of other philosophies of how to deal with this.
You're like the Buddha of DMs. You're like very zen and
it's
like,
much more better for
awesome.
them to have it as an opportunity to learn than have an opportunity to be embarrassed.
That's awesome.
Speaking of business, in artwork, we market to extraordinarily wealthy people usually. So the prevailing philosophy of marketing art right now is to tell people that they can't have it and trigger their internal, like, how dare you tell me what I can't do?
cereal for dinner.
Buy it.
I'm a baby again.
Yeah, like, no, I do want it. I do
Give
want
me
it.
my
You
baba.
can't tell me that. So how do you market to nerds?
It sells itself.
It
sells itself. I mean, again, we don't have a ton of followers, and that's okay because we mostly do it for ourselves. But like, we came out with this new game we're developing called like Animals and Armor. Dungeons and Doggos was the beta.
Dungeons and Doggos. That sounds like a winner.
And like, we go to conventions and we're like, hey, we'd run a couple games and we're like, hey, this is our new system that we made. Like, check it out. You can play with dogs and like we're like and have fun and like go on adventures.
That's
like,
awesome.
Different breeds have different special abilities. Like, stuff like that. Like,
What's a corgi? Wait, what's a corgi do?
I think it's lithe under toe or something like that. They can move through other characters,
So
other dogs.
explain that a little bit more. So these are people who
I
are...
wanted to answer his question though. Okay.
I forgot what I asked.
But no,
What
but
I even asked? I said, how do you market to nerds?
How do I market to? Yeah.
You said it sells itself.
So
you did answer.
It does. It pretty much sells itself because like if they're going to be interested and they want to stick around, granted there's a lot of content, just like how you were saying before. Like people find it difficult to catch up on stuff because
there's so much content in the world right now. Like we have so many content creators. Like I think we need a few content destroyers. Like, we gotta get some.
How do you destroy content?
A lot of pacing has to do with that, especially when you're dealing with long form content. A lot of pacing. So if its pacing isn't not like keeping up with the Doherty threshold of like keeping your intention there, then it's just gonna flop.
I want to go back to the dog thing. So there are people who play D&D and their pets are involved.
Not their actual pets, but I mean, you could if you wanted to. I mean, like,
wait, is it like that dog
So you're
girl on
saying that you
TikTok?
have a
characters-
pet within your character has a pet.
No. Your character is a dog.
You play a dog.
A personified dog.
You know that
Wait,
that dog girl on TikTok?
Are you saying
She's like
that
barking.
like people
No,
have dog
TikTok
pets?
dog.
Hold on. You can do whatever you want, but I'm just saying like the rather than like the lineages or the races that you play, whether it be like half orc, human, halfling, gnome, or whatever. It's instead it's like we've explored a lot of the dogs first, but we're working on other animals as well. But like it's instead like poodle, German shepherd, dachshund, border collie, and everything
Schweinhund.
all these things, and like they all have different abilities and stuff
Wolfenstein.
like that.
I learned all my German from Wolfenstein.
Me too. Schnell. That's all I know.
And then I remember when you kill Hitler at the end, he goes, Eva, auf Wiedersehen.
No way. Oh my god. The old one.
Well, remember, he's
like
like
the
a
original
warlock.
Wolfenstein.
Yeah,
Right,
he shoots fireballs.
That's right.
And there's all of a sudden, next thing you know, in Wolfenstein, there's like 10 Hitler shooting fireballs at you, and you have to
Wow.
kill them all. And then he says, Eva, auf Wiedersehen. And then you remember the scene at the end when you run towards the end of the tunnel and it's outside.
You finally get out.
At the end of
Oh,
Wolfenstein,
yeah.
and then you jump. You know what that's really from?
What?
Midnight Express. The movie Midnight Express. Have you ever seen Midnight Express?
No, it's my diner across the way. It's called that.
Unbelievable movie
That's
about
all
a
I think
man.
about when you say
he
that.
tries to smuggle hash out of Turkey. This is an older movie, but at the very end of the movie, he escapes. I just totally fucked everything up for anybody who hasn't. Anyways, and at the end, he jumps up, he breaks out, and they have that screenshot of just him midair, breaking out.
And they
But
redid it.
They took that and they used it in Wolfenstein.
Yeah, I think when a movie
You
has
just
a
described
certain-
like a D&D plot. Like
There you go.
those are campaigns. Like this is the kind of crazy shit
You're
that
getting
happens.
me really
like,
into it. I feel
You're
like
gonna
I
love
need
it.
to
we're gonna have to
rejoin.
play.
yeah. It is like
D&D time.
It's so much fun. I mean, like just like any other art form, whether it be improv and spoken word and everything like that, there's going to be a lot of
Stupid question.
Do
You ever do a
interaction.
campaign
Please
on
do
Zoom?
more interaction.
Is that like no?
What?
No, they have
Campaign-
whole like online things
That's
for this.
okay.
They have like roll20.com.
Oh, like, so
that is okay.
Yeah, I mean, it
Yes,
depends on your
yeah, yeah.
opinion.
Same.
So with the
it's not
Baker's-
the same energy.
I don't like it.
The
I like
Baker's,
room.
the Baker's
Right,
dozen.
right.
We because I want to keep in touch with my friends here in New York. We have a campaign that we play on like Discord chat, and we record it
cool.
and we stream it. We record it and then we stream the recordings. And then the other two campaigns that we run, we do in person with our friends in Colorado. Right. So like they're still all in the same world, different characters, and because obviously we can't be in New York all the time because I'm in Colorado, this one's digital. But out of the kindness of their hearts and all their time, even though they have no time, we're still keeping with it. What, 2 years later?
Let me
2.5
ask you.
years
So,
later?
as a dungeon master, you've been creating this world. You've been creating these adventures,
Constantly,
and
yeah.
they're all kind of interconnected.
Yeah, I don't create the adventures as much as I create things that are
But
happening in the world, and they
the
react
world
to
is
it.
being created. Like this is a world that
it's
exists amongst
just like the
a
universe
group of people.
Yep, it's a constantly
How
changing,
does it
building,
feel
living.
to be a god?
This is the type of thing is that as soon as I start thinking of myself as a god, I stop being a fair referee. So I
Start
have to
getting
make
hyped
sure.
as fuck, boy.
Yeah.
You really have a
yeah.
good steady. Very
You
impressive.
have to. I'm a
Right.
much kinder
Well,
person as a GM than as a player.
To kind of bring it back to one of the first things we were talking about at the top of the hour, because we only have a little bit of like
Sure.
a minute left. It's like that's kind of like being a gatekeeper in a way. You kind of
Sure.
are the gatekeeper as the DM, and as a
But hopefully
gallerist.
not the colloquial version of it.
Yeah, and as a gallerist, I'm kind of a gatekeeper too. And I don't think it's like, I don't know. I think that word gets a lot of bad rap. Like you're saying, the colloquial version's like this horrible negative thing. I don't think gatekeeping is
It's
always the
barring from
worst.
people from entering. Is
Yeah.
sometimes-
Yeah,
I think
or
curating is
controlling,
okay.
curating. That's kind of what it is sometimes.
Yeah, I think
it's the same thing
I
in
think
a way.
You have to be careful what it is you're gatekeeping. Are you gatekeeping access to the actual thing? Because you should not do that. Or are you gatekeeping who you want to be involved in as your little niche of the community within the thing?
Right.
And that just has to do with choosing your family and
Right.
choosing the circle of friends that you are with.
That's true. Well, thank you, my friend, for coming on today. This is the end of the full episode. Thank you so much for listening on Patreon. If you're still here, we love you. Thank you so much. Go follow Dice of Ages. Go follow TJ. Go check
Yes.
them out, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was
Whoa,
great.
there's the
Bye.
outro music.
Lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt.
Fireball.
Fireball!